Void monsters? Gameplay updates? Ever-spreading corruption? Casual, goofy fun in competitive environment? That's all part of the latest update that is heading into League of Legends, which seems to be dragging the game in the right direction. And that's not to mention all the theories that people are bringing up, and which Riot is then quickly shooting down. The important thing here is that after the announcement of this update, everyone kinda feels cheerful again, which is quite something rare to see around Summoner's Rift. I mean, there people are supposed to be grumpy. So how is it possible that this is happening with the help of the ever-corrupting Void? Well, you know what's the best thing about all of this? It came from absolutely nowhere. Just like today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Have you ever heard the whispers of eldritch beings reaching out into your subconsciousness to steal your private information? We all have. But don't worry, Surfshark is here to help. Surfshark is a virtual private network that keeps your online identity safe by encrypting all of your internet data. With their help, no pesky abominations will be able to get into your private space. But Surfshark also allows you to swap your real location, so that you can virtually travel across the globe. Which comes in with many benefits you may not know about. Look, I am a humble European drinking a humble European coffee. Life is fine. But living here has one big flaw. Trying to watch animes is a nightmare. No matter what streaming service you're using, some of their animes are always locked behind region-specific locks, meaning that many of the countries don't get access to the best animes. Well, with a simple click, Surfshark allows you to jump from one country to another, and it lets you watch whatever you want, whenever you want. And this also applies to traveling. Do you have a favorite show that you watch at home, but the moment you travel out, it gets blocked? Well, with Surfshark, your device can always stay in the virtual comfort of your home, where it can give you your favorite show. So get yourself protected from the dark forces and watch some animes on an unlimited amount of devices, all with the help of Surfshark. And by using my code, Necrit, you can get up to 6 months for free. Not only that, Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk in trying it out. Of course, all the links to all of that are right now in the description. Many thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, but now, back to dealing with those dark entities. So, I think I speak for absolutely everyone when I say, this is not something I expected. It is one thing to change the layout of a map a little bit, but it is another to give it whole new features that are all around the same thematic. And because everything seems to be so strongly rooted around a single theme, it really makes this entire new update feel similar to something like a set in TFT, which is something I would love to see. What if the Void theme is gonna cycle out the next year, and instead of it we get something like a Noxian theme, and suddenly all the creatures on the Summoner's Rift are being enslaved by Noxians? What if this is actually what Riot is planning? What if they embraced the success of TFT's cycling content and League is going to get the same fresh treatment? This simply sounds awesome, and it has nothing to do with Copium. And yes, I understand when people bring up that a new map every year would be too much. There wouldn't be enough time to learn the new map. To which I would like to say, really? Are we really going to bring competitive issues into a game that desperately needs fun? Just wait till you see what others bring up later. But unfortunately, there is one thing which we quickly need to mention. Besides the video showcasing all the new changes, Riot also released a post where they gave us a lot more detail. And there, at the very beginning, we get a disclaimer. While quite a few of these changes are Void related, we wanted to let you all know that there will not be a Void event in 2024. Sorry, Nicky boy. That's cool that they mention him in one of the biggest posts League can get without allowing him into the League partner program. No, it's all a misdirection, isn't it? It's a lie, and we will totally get a Void event. This is all way too good to be unrelated to it. Okay, real talk, I think Riot is aware that this is something people would expect. So they made sure people wouldn't make up false expectations. Though with that said, remember the lore update? Well, there they did mention that they do have a plan to do something with the lore using gameplay, which to me would mean game modes or events. So while they are specifically telling us that there won't be a Void event in 2024, there is still the likelihood that there might be some kind of a lore event in the summer, but it may be just a different one. For example, it would make sense for them to make one around Piltover and Zaun, since Arcane is also gonna come out. Anyway, enough rambling and setting up the update. Instead, let's dive into what we have actually learned. Obviously, as we mentioned, everything is themed around the Void. And so, as we look around, you may notice some new purple hues. It all starts with the map changes, where it may seem like most of these were designed to give jungle a little bit less power when it comes to ganking. Take top lane, for example. Here, you can no longer gank from behind the lane. At least that's without going through a turret or jumping over the massive wall. Where, we should point out, the wall is thick on purpose so that it is difficult to flash over it. But to compensate for it, there is now a tiny bush in the middle of the river, which not only gives an equal ground for both sides to fight for, but it also gives the junglers at least a little bit of room to play around. Overall, I really like this change. Especially after diving a lot deeper into top lane, as you'll see in a future video. And now, finally, it seems like Riot is making top fun again. It is no longer gonna get absolutely devastated by outside influence, which is simply great. On the other side, near bottom, you may find a similar bush in the middle of the river, which is just a tiny change compared to the massive new path that is leading to the towers on both sides. Well, actually, it's mostly just the top side. This change really had only one purpose, and that is to make both sides symmetrical. Because up to this point, it had always been easier to gank the blue side. Next, on the opposite of the Baron and Dragon Pits, we got a wide wall that serves as a protection for the home jungler, while also making it a little bit easier for everyone else to go through the river without getting devastated. And finally, mid lane also got a lot safer, which is specifically targeted for all the mid laners who don't have a dash. You can see that the bushes got pushed further, yet again mitigating the influence of the junglers. Although, both mid lane turrets also got a new path that comes in from the side, which will give junglers a secondary option on how to dive the turret. Overall, it seems like all of these changes are aimed to give junglers a little bit of their own job instead of just ganking. Now, they might focus more on fighting each other, just like laners would, besides farming and focusing on objectives. But we'll see how that actually plays out. And of course, this all leads to the new changes around Baron. You see, in Season 2024, before Baron or even Herald spawn, a new camp of voidy creatures spawns there, which immediately brought up a question. What do we call these? See, I personally like the name Squippies. What does that mean? I don't know, I made it up. It sounds cool and fits them pretty well, to be honest. And since they are Voidborn, they could be spelled Quippy. Okay, maybe just Quippy. But unfortunately, they do already have an official name. They are called Void Grubs. How boring. We need to make a petition for Squippies. Anyway, these goofballs attack you by summoning Void Mites. I call them Scooples. And after you take one of them down, your entire team gets a permanent buff that lets them deal overtime damage to turrets. The more grubs you slay, the stronger the buff gets. It caps off at 6 stacks, at which point attacking turrets will also spawn your own Void Mites, Squooples. Isn't this just cool? I love these mechanics. This is what League needed, which is why it is so cool to see that things get even better. Because at 14 minutes all Squippies despawn, and the new Herald arrives, who looks even voidier than before. And just like before, after killing it, You can spawn your own herald that will march down onto the enemy turrets, although there is a really awesome change. Any team member can hop into the herald and can drive it like the battle sled from Nexus Blitz. Am I understanding this correctly? They specifically gave Summoner's Rift a goofy mechanic to have fun with? This is unheard of, which is precisely why people pointed it out. How dare they have fun in League of Legends? How dare they try to bring in new players to a game that's losing them by overly focusing on competitive mechanics? This is not League. Not unless you have the urge to poke your eyes out. Okay, to be fair, this is a valid criticism. I just do believe that people forgot that League can have fun mechanics while also staying competitive. So again, we'll see how it turns out. But I am a massive fan of this change. Which leads us to the big voidy monster. The new Baron Nashor, who looks a little bit like a Squidward. You see, this is really when people started thinking that a void event might happen. Because when you look at the new Baron, they look like a shark that has human hands. Which is something that would heavily tie into Bel'Veth, a void monster that got shaped by oceanic life and all the humans she consumed. Which made it seem like she forced Baron into joining her, just like she always teased in her voice lines. This is really why Riot had to shoot down all the theories. It's because all of this seems to be teasing a void event, which is why maybe all of this is still just a red herring. Then again, we were told that the IP team is overlooking everything that comes out of the League IP. That's why the new Baron looks so canon accurate. It's all the job of the new team. Anyway, of course, the new Baron also comes in with new mechanics. First of all, when he spawns, he can take on one of 3 shapes, all of which change the map, his appearance, and give him a different way to fight. The Haunting Baron, which is the default one, leaves the pit as it is and he strikes nearby enemies with the lightning from above. The Territorial Baron, which is the one with the horn, puts an extra wall in front of it and he pulls enemies in with his grabby hands. And the All-Seeing Baron, which is the one with the eye, opens up a side lane going through the pit, while he attacks his enemies with zones of overtime damage. But that's still not all. When Baron spawns, he also corrupts other monsters in the jungle. Scuttlecrab suddenly becomes harder to kill, and when you take it down, it reveals everything around it, including stealthed wards. And in a similar way, blue buff and red buff also get harder to kill, but when you take them down, everyone who is currently alive on that team gets the buff. After this, we also got tiny updates on Drakes, although Riot didn't have the visuals ready yet. So in short, Mountain Drake lost some of the walls that didn't make sense anymore. And Infernal Drake now scatters his cinders around the map, which function somewhat like Bard's Meeps. When you pick them up, you get some movement speed and a buff. But when you die, you drop half of all the cinders you were holding, which others can then pick up. Again, this is a really cool goofy mechanic, and I am all in for it. But that's really it for the gameplay changes. But there is still more, because next we are diving into some item changes. Besides the fact that mythic items are gone, there are some new items coming in. Now, I really don't want to talk about them in detail because we know as a fact they will change because they are broken. Like Teemo one-shotting people with a single mushroom kinda broken. But I'll tell you this, all of these items had to be approved by the IP team. Which means that they all should fit into the universe, which is something I might make a video on in the future. Also, we really need to point out that Riot did indeed make an oopsie. In their video, they showed the new Zonia. And there they showed that it now gives armor and magic resistance, essentially turning it into a tank item, even though a lot of mages were previously balanced around it. Well, apparently this was a mistake and it is still supposed to give you AP. So don't panic, it is still a mage item. Also, there is one more change worth mentioning. The life of supports got a lot easier because now there is a new support item. It is a quest item that upgrades after you execute minions or poke enemies. So it's one item does all kinda deal. At the middle stage, it still gives you free wards just like before, but at the third stage, you get to choose which upgrade you wanna give it. This way, this item is flexible and you can choose what fits you. So in short, they are making an item that fits everyone for the sake of simplicity. Now, next, Riot also mentioned an interesting update when it comes to quests. You know how when Rengar and Kha'Zix meet on the battlefield, they get a special quest to kill each other? Well, apparently there will be more. From Hui, we know that he got his own quest against Jhin, but with the footage, Riot also teased a quest for Zed and Shen, Nasus and Renekton, and maybe even Jax and Bel'Veth. I guess that one would make sense. Also, near the end of the video, they also mentioned some audio changes. Apparently, the music on the Summoner's Rift will change depending on where you are and what you are fighting, teasing that Baron will get a boss theme. They better go Final Fantasy level of boss themes. And finally, League is getting one more addition. You see, people complained that there isn't enough communication. And so, Riot gave us more. Now you can fist bump your allies! That's right, it is an interactive fist bump emote that does the job on its own with a single press of a button. Hey, I have to admit, this is pretty cool. But that's pretty much where all the changes end. So again, as I mentioned before, all of these changes look amazing. And now I am totally expecting similar things to happen every year. No, I mean it. Sets in TFT work so well. It is constantly bringing back more players. And League could use this treatment too. Yes, I would agree that TFT sets are cycling a little bit too quickly for League. But a new theme every year for every season? That actually sounds perfect. Do you know how long a year is? Do you really think you need a whole year to learn the layout of a map? Nobody said you had to be perfect at it. And if you do, that means that probably you are a master player or above. And you know what that is? That is like 1% of the entire player base. So what should Riot focus on? Making sure the 1% of all players is happy with all the competitiveness? Or the other 99% by making the game fun? Don't answer that question. You're gonna somehow use the fist bump for destructive comps anyway.